Last time, Ridgewater County took its first real step beyond a starter footprint. Main Street has more weight behind it now, the residential blocks are filling in, public services are starting to take shape, and Owen Voss has made it clear that he sees Ridgewater as the next place to build. But that growth pointed Ridgewater toward the next question. What happens when the town's edge starts moving toward land that already has a purpose? Today, Ridgewater moves toward the farmland and begins shaping the county's first major agricultural edge. We are building the first full farm, extending Main Street, and adding new residential growth as the town starts pressing farther into the land around it. That pushes the episode into the first real land use conflict in Ridgewater County. It also brings in Thomas Miller. Miller is a generational farmer whose family has worked this soil for 3 generations. To Owen Voss, the land around Ridgewater looks like space for homes, commercial growth, and the next phase of town expansion. But to Miller, that same land is already doing a job. It feeds the county, it carries history, and it gives Ridgewater something to lose if every open field becomes the next subdivision. If Ridgewater is going to grow, you cannot treat farmland like leftover space. So today, we build the farm, expand the town, and set up the first real conflict between growth pressure and working land. Welcome back to Ridgewater County. We're starting today with the farm. Before we can actually build it, we have a money problem to solve. The town is stable, the budget is positive, but the treasury is only sitting around $20,000, and the farm build I have planned is going to cost closer to $250,000. That makes this the biggest investment Ridgewater has made so far. I do not want to shrink it down just to make the budget feel comfortable. The whole point of this episode is to make the farmland feel real before growth starts pushing into it. So we're going to let the town run for a while, build the reserve, and come back when this project can be done properly. Once the reserve is there, we can break ground on the first real farm in Ridgewater County. Okay, that gives Ridgewater, not quite there, but gives us enough reserve to break ground. We're not fully funded for every detail yet, but we have enough to get started. We can start shaping and getting our basic roads in. Alright, let's take care of a little housekeeping. Get this road paved. Don't like that turn. Now let's refactor that a little bit. That's a little smoother. Let's start with some dirt roads. Alright, so here's our main fertile land now. We've got some mods, so we can adjust that a little bit if we need to, but for the most part, let's try to keep to that core usage here. I think we can get our initial driveway in here through these trees. Okay, I think that's a pretty good entry. I think we can put the main farm homestead right here on the backside of this pocket. That gives us some room. We might be able to squeeze maybe a little housing here. We can say this little patch isn't the farm. Got some detailing room that we can give it hopefully give it some uniqueness to it. But I think with this being the kind of extra accessory out of town to our collector, we'll get some cornfields in here. Let's get this area painted first with our industry. Now you might notice that I'm pretty unlocked here. I actually have Find It set to unlock all. It's not that I don't like the game progression, because I do. It's that once a section is unlocked, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense that a farmer has to start with a small little field like that just because. So let's go ahead and get our main structure in. I think packed in here is going to be a little more realistic looking. Now, let's go ahead and keep these off for the moment until we get the main structure in and utilities in. And we don't really have the industrial demand right now. Our funding process kind of hurt us on our initial industrial demand we had when we ended the episode last time. That's okay. I think I want to put 6 of these in. Now let's see if we can weave over this way. Might be able to scoot the whole operation over just a touch. We can turn a little closer to the edge of the highway. Which, when main collectors, and I wouldn't call this an interstate by any means, but a good sized highway, they eminent domain. This easily could have been the entire farm at one point. Now I think we can kind of carve out a little extra gridding here and create a few more pockets of use cases. That won't be bad. Now, we're not going to really have anything on the left side of this road to interfere with the housing that will eventually go in. Now let's see if we can fit in little cattle. Now let's give our traffic a secondary exit. I don't want to meet back in. It's just gonna farms bring a lot of traffic in this game. And there's some mods that can make that more realistic, but I think we can start with seeing what our management looks like. If it becomes a problem, we can maybe make an adjustment if needed. small one in here. We can. Let's get some helper facilities in. Farm maintenance. I think we can squeeze that in right over here. Little grain silo. Wow, big grain silo. Put a cattle shed right over here. Now that gives us the basics, and we're starting to run out of money again. So with this gets our footprint in. Okay, well, that's not all the detail we're going to do. We're going to wait to the end to kind of do it, but I just wanted to get some of the basic footprint settled. Now now that we have the basics established here, we can kind of move back to what the game wants. And that's residential. And we have some commercial, so I think this is a good time that we can kind of look to develop the second half of our main street, and I think there's plenty of room here to add a kind of backside neighborhood to that, a little tighter density in there, and you know, really kind of get them packed in a little more tightly. Get our initial road set up. Maybe a little one right there. I really pack this in pretty dense. I think we'll leave this for maybe some future town amenities and a couple other things, possibly. We'll just kind of see how this thing grows and develops. But let's get started with this side. We're just going to work this thing all the way down and create some depth, and now that we have our detailing opened up, we can really kind of build this out organically. What am I looking for? I think I'm looking for, yeah, some commercial eco. I think with our little makeshift Walgreens, CVS style build, we can give this block over here a little something unique. Kind of like a farmer's market. Except I think, let's see how far these are. Let's put some walking paths in. I definitely could see maybe a little pocket of higher density apartments going in here. You can let that movie theater kind of bounce off that traffic. Maybe do like a little eating cafe. I think we have a good park cafe for that. We might could just go ahead and squeeze in now. Sidewalk restaurant. We'll face the neighborhood. I think, yeah, has some built-in pathways that we can hook to, so that'll kind of fill that in nicely. But that gives us enough. So, I'm thinking right in here. First off, let's get our buildings back. I think we need to tuck this a little further back. It's probably going to give us no, water came with it. That moves us a little bit further out of the way. I'm thinking from, you know, we have a very small education pipeline right now. We have an elementary school that is probably getting, well, it's in pretty decent shape. Really what we need right now is a high school coming soon. But we can afford a small library. I think a library would fit real nice. Right off the edge of the neighborhood, it's still hooked into our future town park. And having it on basically city land. Well, I think for now that's about as far as we need to go with our main street. There's still plenty of room for future development, leaving just enough space to kind of let things grow up around it to see what we need and what looks good. So now we need to really take on our primary issue right now, which is housing, because we need to get the farm turned on. So basically what I'm doing here though is just using the network multi-tool to add a node right as soon as it clicks in. So now we have the extra node. Now we can take a controller and stretch our end 200%. And it gives us that cul-de-sac look. And with Move It, we can get our houses positioned right around it and give us a pretty realistic cul-de-sac. Now, we haven't moved over here yet, but since we're taking care of that housekeeping, we can go ahead and get our cul-de-sacs all dealt with. Okay, let's drop some housing. I think this block over here will give it that older neighborhood look. Keep them nice and tight, not as tight as we can realistically. That's a little too tight. And I can already see what I have forgotten, and that is getting our water lines under the roads. Okay, now we can get back to dropping some housing. We're still keeping good density, but some of these have some nice, generous plot sizes. Gives us that pretty realistic spacing while keeping density in mind. We definitely need our housing to pick up. We need to start getting that demand down. Now we have to decide where we're going to stop. I think maybe there. We're pretty tight through here. We can just leave that a little wooded and maybe even increase the tree count when we get to detailing. I think we'll actually just see if we can get ourselves a small park. That's a massive park. This park. That is a nice little custom asset just for some neighborhood parks. It's good. Small fit. We can still work a pathway here and branch it back here. Let's clean up this dead tree. Now maintenance is not yet in, and keep that cleaned up. And I think we can get ourselves some more housing in. Oh, that worked out nice. Leave this little alleyway for a pedestrian path. We're getting definitely on the edge of our collector, which means noise will be a thing. Man, got some trees and that asset. I have to come back around with Bob at some point here and clean that up a little bit. Now, I want to leave this blank for a while. I think, to me, it looks like a great place for something like this. I think a soccer field right here would be a great amenity right off Main Street, and Kind of keeps that noise buffer down off the collector and the highway. And if we do end up with some little higher density like apartments around the back, that's another great asset for them. So I do want to keep a certain amount of buffer to separate residential from the backside of our main street. Ooh. Wasn't paying attention here. And we have a power issue. Well, I think we are due for a third windmill. And while we're on the power generating side of things, I think we obviously have underground utilities. So we can add a couple. Okay, well, I think we have a good blend of different type housing styles, where it doesn't look like it was all just slammed down and spec house building type. And we added a good chunk to our population, and our budget is healthier. But we do still have some room. We still have quite a bit of residential demand. I think we can go ahead and fill in this section. I said in a previous episode, I love these assets. They look very high end, high detail. But they can bog the engine down. They have a very high try count, so I try to reserve them for kind of unique little spaces to give that higher end feel. I actually don't have they're growable. I don't have the rest of them in right now, the other stages, but they come with like a construction site, but that construction site hangs around for quite a number of levels. I think that'll do. Probably get rid of that one. Gives the ability to kind of pass through. See what we can find to maybe match this higher end style on the other side of the street. These are pretty attractive. This will keep us a little skinnier through here, and that kind of will let us give us the ability to put a little detail on the back side. Oh, look at there. Get a milestone and get a tile. That will serve us well. I don't think it's something we need to concern ourselves at the moment with. Well, we have jumped our population up well over 1,000 residents. We have our farm in a pretty good place. We have our main street growing pretty well. Still aren't really touching our industrial. We're having some water issues. Right on the edge of water. Which don't think that's something we want to mess with right now. But definitely will set us up to need to address the elephant in the room, which is this industrial park. Well, and it's got trees growing through buildings and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Our residential demand is quite down, so our industrial demand is up, is where we wanted that flip to happen. Let's turn it on. Okay, well, we've made a lot of progress today. We've gotten ourselves in a good place with the farm, which needs a little electrical help. Let's do that here. Let's clear a path. Let's put a physical line, which to me is far more realistic on this edge of town. Alright. Well, we've made a ton of progress. Definitely like the direction we're heading. And we definitely have set ourselves up for a very busy next episode. We need to get all of our utilities back in line. We need to catch up on our detailing debt that we are quickly accumulating. Get pedestrian pathways, high-level detailing, all of our detailing on our farm. And we need to start really thinking about, especially since we unlocked the tile, where are we going to start looking for our permanent home for those services and for industrial park. And if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear in the comments. If not, I think this is where we will leave things for this episode. Thank you for joining, and I hope to see you next time. That gives Ridgewater its first real agricultural edge. The farm is no longer just open land outside the town. It is active, it is connected, and it gives this side of the county a purpose before the next wave of development reaches it. Main Street also pushed farther out. New residential blocks came in behind it, and Ridgewater added another 1,000 residents in the process. But the warning signs are starting to show. The systems that carry Ridgewater through its first stage of growth are now running close to their limits. What worked for a small town is beginning to strain under the weight of a growing one. So before Ridgewater can keep expanding, it has to deal with what this growth has exposed. Next time, Ridgewater faces its first real service crisis. And remember, start from a baseline, build with intent, let the systems prove the design.